She always sat in the same pew, third row on the left, right beneath the image of Our Lady of Sorrows. She was discreet, silent, the kind of presence few notice, but whom the angels know by name. Her name was Maria Eugenia, hair tied in a bun, a light veil over her shoulders, and eyes that seemed to carry more than time could ever tell. For 10 years, Maria Eugenia carried in her chest a pain she shared with no one. Her son, Gabriel, had walked away from everything she had taught him since he was a child. The childhood prayers, the respect for Mass, confession at the right time. All of it had been left behind when he stepped into adolescence. At 19, Gabriel left home, and with it, his faith. He drifted from bar to bar, surrounded by voices that screamed while silencing the soul. Maria Eugenia never judged him. She only prayed every day, sometimes through tears, sometimes in despair, but she always prayed. She offered masses, one each week, faithfully. She handed his name in silent intention, kneeling and saying to Jesus from the depths of her heart, "Lord, save my son. Even if I never see it with my eyes, let me believe it with my heart." At the parish, few knew this story. Some just saw a devout woman, perhaps a bit austere, perhaps a little mysterious. No one knew that there, in that very pew, was a mother fighting for a soul. And there were days when Maria Eugenia faltered. Days when the phone rang and she didn't answer, afraid it would be more bad news. There were nights when she cried herself to sleep, unsure whether Gabriel was alive, hurt, or simply lost in the world. And in those moments, her only strength came from the Eucharist. She received communion as one who wasn't just taking in the body of Christ, but also receiving a heavenly embrace that whispered, "Don't give up." 10 years passed, and every Sunday, Gabriel's name was again silently offered. 10 years of faith without evidence. 10 years of communion mixed with tears, but on an ordinary Sunday morning. In the ordinary time of the liturgy, something extraordinary happened at the elevation of the host when the bells rang softly and the priest proclaimed, "This is my body." Maria Eugenia felt a warmth rising in her chest, a gentle warmth like that of a son returning home after a long time. She saw nothing with her eyes, but deep in her heart, she heard a clear phrase, "Mom, I'm here." Her body trembled. Her hands shook. She closed her eyes, and for a moment, she was certain she wasn't alone in that pew. A presence enveloped her like an invisible embrace, and the peace she felt was as if all those years had merely been preparation for that moment. She didn't tell anyone that day. Not the priest, not her friends from the apostolate, not even the neighbors who often asked about Gabriel with that thinly veiled look of pity. She didn't need to. What she had experienced was far too sacred to be reduced to ordinary words. That moment belonged to her, her son, and God. In the days that followed, Maria Eugenia began attending Mass with a different expression, still silent, still discreet. But now there was a new light in her eyes, something that hadn't been there before, like someone carrying an answer deep in their chest, like someone whose prayer had not only been heard, but answered. A few weeks later, the phone rang. An unknown number, she answered, already bracing her heart for the worst. But on the other end, the voice was steady, though trembling. "Mom?" She recognized it instantly. It was Gabriel, and he was crying, not like a spoiled boy, but like a weary man. He said he was coming home, that he had spent years running from himself, that he had had a dream of her. Kay was on his knees in front of the altar of his childhood church. Kay, and she silently placed her hand on his head. In the dream, he felt peace, a peace he hadn't known in years. Maria Eugenia didn't ask for details. She simply responded calmly, "Come home, son. God never left you, and neither did I." The next Sunday, Gabriel entered the church for the first time in over a decade. His hair was shorter, his beard unshaven, his eyes weary. But there was something in him that Maria Eugenia recognized immediately. The boy was still there. Wounded, yes. Remorseful, perhaps. But present. During Mass, she watched him quietly as he sat and wept. And when the time came for communion, he hesitated, but she encouraged him with a simple nod. He didn't receive the Eucharist that day, not yet. At the end of the celebration, he went to speak with the priest. He confessed. He cried. He asked for forgiveness. And he promised to return. Maria Eugenia's faith had not been in vain. Her silent persistence, her masses offered, her rosaries whispered in the early morning hours. It had all been like small bricks building an invisible bridge. And that morning, the first step had been taken. The following week, Gabriel returned. And this time, he received communion. He knelt beside his mother, and together, in silence, they received Jesus. And it was then that she understood the miracle wasn't just his return. It was what God had done within her during the waiting. He didn't just bring her son back. He made her stronger, holier, more whole. Communion had become the answer. But the waiting had always been the transformation. Months passed since their reunion. And every Sunday, Gabriel remained by his mother's side. There was something different about him now, mature silence, a peace that didn't come from answers, but from surrender. He was no longer the restless young man lost in vices and escapes. He had become a man touched by grace, shaped by the waiting of a mother who never let go of his hand. Even from afar, Maria Eugenia, on her part, never sought applause or recognition. She continued, sitting in her usual spot at church, third row on the left, just like always. But now, her gaze lingered on the altar, not just with supplication, but with gratitude. Gratitude for having endured, even when everything told her to give up. Gratitude for each tear that, though silent, had been gathered by God. What many don't know, and perhaps you didn't either, is that there are mothers like Maria Eugenia in every church, women who carry in their hearts a love that surpasses time, exhaustion, and abandonment. They pray alone, light candles, offer masses, make promises, and the world doesn't see it. But heaven sees. Heaven records. Heaven responds even if the answer takes years to bloom. Because what sustains the world isn't just the grand public miracles, but the small, hidden acts, quiet offerings from souls that love in secret. A mother kneeling before the blessed sacrament with her child's name on her lips. Is more powerful than 1,000 sermons. And maybe now, the one reading or watching this is yourself, a Maria Eugenia. Maybe you have a son, a daughter, a husband, or a sibling who's drifted away. Maybe you've prayed so much that your words feel dry. Maybe you've gone to Mass so many times without seeing change that you've started to wonder if God is even listening. But I say to you, with all the tenderness of heaven, you are not alone. Your prayer carries weight. Your silence has value. And God is already working if you can't see it. Sometimes He is shaping the heart of the one you pray for. Other times He is shaping yours. And when the miracle happens, and it will, how many will understand that the waiting wasn't punishment, but preparation? That time wasn't lost, but refinement. That the altar, so often bathed with your tears, became the very place where God prepared the most beautiful reunion of your life. And on the day when communion is shared, not just between the altar and heaven, but between restored heart, soul, no, not a single prayer was in vain, not a single Mass wasted, not a single tear ignored. If this story touched your heart, subscribe now to the channel. But more than that, write in the comments the name of someone you've been praying for. Let's build a chain of silent yet powerful prayer, just like Maria Eugenia's. because, in the end, the greatest miracle is the one that begins inside the heart. And when God moves in the invisible, He changes everything, even the story that once seemed lost.